What's up, guys? So let's see. I don't want to be staring at myself for fucking an hour. Okay, this is the Fantasy Baseball 2019 pre-draft analysis. I'll call it an analysis because that's really what it is. You'll know the players I like and dislike. You'll know my set strategy going into the season, and you can from there maybe understand where I'm coming from, because I'm not omnipotent, right? I'm not always right. I just think the strategy that I use is very easy to do well. So here we go. Strategy going into the season is to wait on pitching for as long as I can. If 20 starters went the first 2 rounds, I'm going to have to take a pitcher round 3, right? So it's not necessarily the round, it's how many guys I view could replicate being inside that top 6, top 7 starter. You don't need the best starter to win. But the difference between a 5th overall starting pitcher, 6th overall starting pitcher, and a guy who finishes like just inside the top 20, start per start, week per week, it's really not that fucking insane. So why I understand why Sale and Scherzer go there. I just don't see a huge disparity week per week in a 5x5 league. Like 11 Ks per 9 and 10 Ks per 9 is really separating between a 20th overall starter and a 5th overall starter. Except the guy that's going 5th overall, you're paying for his last year's ERA, you're paying for his last year's WHIP, right? And as someone who does advanced, metrics, I see guys that I say, this guy had a 3.4 ERA last year, but everything shows that he could have had a 2.8. Like, a prime example is Aaron Nola. Nola had actually a better SABR statistical season for the most part in 2017, but he finished with a 3.54 in 2017. And last year he had a sub 2.5. So for Nola, who's a great pitcher, to be getting drafted this early, he's getting drafted based off of his ERA and WHIP of last season, which he could go back to 2017 because, again, the numbers showed that he wasn't that much different. So waiting on pitching is something that I'm going to be doing. It could be the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. It could be the 10th round until I take my first starter. But it all has to do with the guys that I like, and you'll know who I like and where they're going. So from an offensive standpoint, to do well, a lot of your players should be in at least one of these 3 things. A good spot in the batting order, which we all know. A good park to hit in, we all know. A team that is formidable so that when they are putting the ball in play and they're batting 155 for that week, they could still drive in a couple runs, they could still drive in a couple RBIs. And guys that are less likely to bust, and their value is sky high. So that's who I'm... So an example would be Alex Bregman could very well have a very good year next year. But his very good year, he was still a 19th overall player of last season, yet he's going 14 overall. And I don't think he possesses the upsides of batting average or steals. So he could very well have a great year. I just don't think he possesses that upside. Where Javier Baez, I disagree with. I don't like Javier Baez, but Javier Baez has way more upside than Alex Bregman. I'm not drafting either 2 of those guys, but if someone were to tell me, I took Javier Baez because even if he were to hit 230, he could still go 20-20, I'd be like, okay, I agree with you. I might not like the player, but I agree with that analysis. Whereas someone like Paul Goldschmidt, I just don't think the upside's there. He's going 20. He's the 22nd overall player. He finished 29 last year. And I understand that the current rankings aren't, all end-all be-all. But when guys are going from smaller parks to larger parks to better offenses to worse offense environments, I just feel as though anyone you take that early, if you're going to be taking him over one of those top 2, top 3 pitchers, you shouldn't be tanking categories. You should be having those weeks where You're never giving away weeks. So Chris last year had an okay team. he would have a week he hit 295, and he with like 13 homers, 35, and 5 steals, and he wouldn't win a category. Maybe he would win, but he wouldn't win because you can't predict how your opponent's going to do. And that's both those weeks, who he played and who he had, his week. It's a great week. It's a fantastic week. But then the next week, he would have a below average week, and then the following week, he would have a week where he hits like 220. You do the math, and then he has a 35% win percent, because when you have an okay week, you're going to have an okay outcome. When you have a bad week, you're going to have a bad outcome. And when you have a really good week, you might not even win. So what you want to do is consistently have average to above average weeks. It'll play itself out in the long run, because there's always going to be a week, no matter who you own, you're going to hit 230. As long as you can limit those 230 weeks to like maybe 2 or 3 throughout the entire duration of the season, or even when you're hitting 230, you're still getting runs, you're still getting RBIs. Like last year, I had 3 weeks where I hit under 205, I think it was. It was like 210, 205. I expected it. So at the Roto stats, my average was really fucking bad, right? I had like a 268 batting average for the season. It was like 7th or 8th for the I think actually maybe it was like 5th to 6th and 7th, right? But there were like 16 other weeks I hit above 285. And the weeks that I hit 230, I was still scoring runs, I was still stealing bases, and I was still getting home runs because the guys that I had were actually good MLB players. They weren't like just Marcelo Zunas, who are getting drafted to hit 23 home runs, 280, and have 3 months out of the year where they suck. So consistency is key, especially if you're going to be drafting hitting and trying to get every single 5 category. And the guys that are getting drafted, you should have a mixture of guys that, even if they have a bad year, will still be productive, or guys that have extreme amount of upside in either A, home runs, either B, batting average, or B, stolen bases. But as long as all those guys are safe for counting stat purposes, you can argue any guy you like. Even if I dislike them, I'll probably still agree with you on. Counting stats are very, very important when it comes to drafting a player. And I think those two things go overlooked. Home runs and RBIs get overlooked. RBIs and runs scored get overlooked very, very, very much. Everyone just goes off of, this guy's going to steal 20 bases. This guy's going to hit like 50 home runs. Sure, but make sure the counting stats are there, because there's still two other categories. Okay, so here we go. Mike Trout, I'm taking first overall. Don't got to talk about him. My second overall player is, at this current time, and I think it's going to remain the same, Jose Ramirez. I've been humbled. While I always thought he was a really good hitter based off of batting averages, he has shown to me that he's going to run no matter what the coach fucking says. So I think he could steal 30, and I think he can hit 30 at 29 and 39. And I thought his 29 home runs were going to go back down to like 17, but they didn't. They went up. I'm humbled. I think he batted 180 in the month of September because he was A, tired, or B, it was mixed a little bit with a little bit of bad luck. When you have a BABIP at like 160 for the month, it's not inducive for anyone. So I'd put him at 30, 88. While the counting stats won't be insane, he plays second base. So I don't really think they have to be that insane, because whoever you're getting later in the second, third round as an outfielder, you can just plug their counting stats in with his counting stats. And if you draft Mookie Betts, if you draft Mookie Betts and whoever your second baseman is, and then I go and I draft Jose Ramirez and whoever my fucking outfielder is, I'm going to have better counting stats than you. So while, yes, Mookie Betts might possess better counting stats or may possess a few more home runs, whoever you're plugging in at your second base position is going to be far, far less consistent than Jose Ramirez. And outfielders are better players overall. If every player had OF next to his name, and there was you had to draft 10 players, you wouldn't see any middle infielders getting drafted besides Jose Ramirez. Same as goes for Gary Sanchez too, but we play that game. That's the game we play. Mookie Betts, I'm taking third. I fucking love this song. I'm gonna start crying. Okay, so my third overall player is Mookie Betts. John gets it. My fourth overall player is Jose Altuve. I think he's going to go 20-20, hit 315, 320, score 100 runs, 100 plus, and hit 75, 80 RBIs. He's batting second, third on that team. And I think he possesses upside to hit 340. He possesses upside to steal 30. The only downside is I can see him hitting, 14, 15 home runs again. But again, because his batting average is so high, potentially, you can just draft fat power hitters later in the draft. So I think building a team around him or Jose Ramirez is very key, because a lot of the second basemen that I see, I view them all as like 250 hitters with 20 home runs, 70-70, with no steals and limited upside. So I think being able to build off a Jose Altuve or a fucking Jose Ramirez is a good way to play. Now Trey Turner has shortstop eligibility. I think there are shortstops that are better going a lot later. But the only problem with Trey is that he hasn't shown me that he can hit for a really high batting average, where Jose Altuve and Jose Ramirez have shown they can hit 315 3 straight fucking years in a row. So I think with Trey Turner, you're not getting a great batting average. Again, this guy hasn't hit 20 home runs yet. Jose Ramirez is at 39 and 29. Jose Altuve is at 25. So while the steals might be insane, I just think I don't disagree with him going there. I just think there's too much risk with the batting average, with the RBIs, and with the home runs. And that's just where I am with him. But I don't dislike him. I'm just not taking him. JD Martinez, obviously, I like. I'm just not taking him there. I like him below Bryce Harper. I like Aaron Judge over him. I like Yelich over him. I like him over Acuna. And I like Acuna over Stanton. And that's my outfield rank. So if I have to go back into it, that's my outfield rank. Outfield rank is as followed as Mike Trout, Mookie Betts, Bryce Harper, Aaron Judge, Christian Yelich, JD Martinez, Acuna, Giancarlo Stanton, Rhys Hoskins, Charlie Blackmon. That's my outfield rank. Okay, so Trey Turner, I love. He could hit 250, but he could hit also 290 and do what he did last year. He hits 35 home runs. He steals 20 bases. He stole in the minors. He gets counting stats. There's a lot of left-handed pitchers in that division. I think he's great. I think he's a great player. Ronald Acuna, I'm not as high on. I don't know where he's hitting in the lineup. I don't believe the steals. I can see his batting average being sub 270. And example, like let's just say he goes 100 runs, 30 homers, 75, 80 RBIs, and has 15 steals, batting 280. I'd rather have Judge or Bryce Harper that had the same runs, if not more, hit 10 to 15 more home runs, hit 20 more RBIs, and steal 5 less bases, and have a similar batting average. So I just think his upside is based off of steals. If you were to take away his steals, which I know you can't, but he hasn't stolen. The Braves don't steal. So, and the Ozzie Abbeys, somebody can explain to me how Ozzie Abbeys, who stole 40 bases in the minor leagues, stole 14 bases last year. Someone explain that to me, because they don't steal. Dansby Swanson, based off of speed metrics, is extremely fast, and he doesn't steal either. Ender Inciarte is one of the slowest dudes on that team, yet he had 28 steals last year. So I just don't believe that team steals. I think they just steal when the opportunity is ripe. That's why you saw fucking Freddie Freeman with 10. I just don't think they're a team that runs. So if you could guarantee me he steals 25 bases, sure, I bump him up. Probably ahead of Judge and probably ahead of Bryce Harper. You can bet me 25 steals, sure. I just don't, I like him from a baseball perspective, but I just think he's going where the steals are there. And we don't know if the steals are going to be there. So, Bregman, I'm not taking there. I think he's a great player. I just don't think he has the upside as the other guys do. I don't believe his steals are elite. I don't believe his batting average is elite. I don't believe his power is even elite compared to the other guys that are going there. RBIs and runs scored will be there. I think people will overlook that. I still think he's like a late second rounder. I'm just not taking him there. That's just where it is with him. Freddie Freeman, I'm not taking a first baseman early. I think first baseman and third baseman are two guys you can get later for value. And there's a lot of guys that I think that can finish inside the top 2, top 3 at that position. I think the counting stats for almost every first and third baseman going later are you're still going to get 85-85. You're still going to get consistency. There are guys on good ballparks or guys on good teams. And I just think Freddie Freeman, a guy who has showed he hasn't hit 30, he doesn't have 30 home run power. So you're getting a guy who doesn't steal, doesn't have 30 homer power. You're paying for batting average, runs, and RBIs, which I think is fine. But if Freddie Freeman's going to have 100 runs and 110 RBIs, and Joey Votto has 100 runs and 85 RBIs and bats 300, because that's what I think Joey Votto's going to do. Like, you're really paying 3 rounds for a guy with similar production. And I understand Freddie Freeman. I understand he's a great player. I think he should be in the second round. I'm personally just not taking him because I believe in other first basemen going later. And I don't think he has the home run upside. I think he's going to be top 4 in RBIs for the National League. I do say that. So, Aaron Judge, I love. He's going to strike out sub 25%. Bold prediction. Strike out under 25%. I've looked at his stance. His left foot has not been elevated as much as it has been in other swings or other years. He's gotten better every year of his minor league career. I think he's primed to break out and hit 50 home runs this year and win the American League MVP or be second to it. I'm dead fucking serious, and I know I'm a Yankee fan, but this guy is just a worker, and you can say anything you want about the Yankees, but this guy should be the face of baseball, if not Mike Trout, because he plays West Coast. He's a humble guy. He's a hard worker. Oh, God. He's awesome. So, Javier Baez. I see the appeal for him because he can steal and he can hit for power. And he plays in a very good ballpark for him. And he plays in a very good ballpark, and he has counting stats because he bats 4th. I just think he's going to hit 220. I think he's going to hit like 220. So I think with hitting 220, I think that all home runs and the RBIs and run score will really go down. He will still finish like a top 60 player because he's going to steal so he's probably still going to go like 20-20. But I just think he's going to be vastly inconsistent because he doesn't get on base. So if he's not hitting, he's not getting new runs. And if he's not hitting, he's not getting new RBIs because he doesn't put the ball in play. And it's still a National League team. And that lineup is kind of weak behind him. I could see the stolen bases also going down from 21 to like 13 because he got caught stealing a shit ton. Stanton I have at 105, 40 and 5, batting 265. I think he's a great second rounder. Manny Machado, I think. Can you knock it off? Manny Machado, I have at 30 homers, 85 runs, 90 RBIs, 10 steals, and a 288 batting average. I think he's a great second rounder. I think he does have some question marks, as we all would assume, because of the team. That team is not that bad offensively. They can still get guys on base and hit home runs and score and stuff. But I don't like all the parks he's going to be in. He's going to be in a bunch of pitchers' parks. So it's just a little too many red flags for me, but he's still a second rounder. Paul Goldschmidt, not taking a first base in there. The steals have to be there. He's going to a worse park, worse environment. And I've seen him hitting second and Paul DeJong hitting third. So, again, he could easily be a great player, but I'm just not taking a first baseman that early. Chris Bryant, I think, is a bum. I think he's overrated. I think he's been overrated for fantasy purposes for 4 years. I've never liked where he's gone. He has a career home run to fly ball ratio of 16. Explain to me how that's a power hitter. Over 4 years. 4 full years. 16 home run to fly ball ratio. That's not a power hitter. Go look at any power hitter. That's not a power hitter. He hit second, which is fine, but for the National League, it's not really the greatest.